Rolling? Okay. I want to welcome everybody to Chassidus from Misnagdim. We meet every Thursday night at 9:15 at Congregation Schwartz, 1575 Coney Island Avenue in Brooklyn. And we want to dedicate the schus of tonight's Limud HaTorah L'Chaim Ben Chacham Yisrael, Chaim Yisrael Ben Chana Cyril, Refuah Shleima. It's Rabelski from Tarvadas, Yeshu Shalom Ben Chaim Musha. That's Rav Yashiv from Yerushalayim. And I was also asked to dedicate to a woman who was recently diagnosed with liver cancer. Just give me a moment to get that name. Zahava Baschana, Refuah Shleima. Okay. So, there are two types of people who come for Kriyas HaTorah. There are people who come because they want to hear a flawless learning. And there are people who come because they want to hear a mistake-ridden learning, because they have no greater hana in the world than to jump on the Baal Kaira and correct them and show them what an amateur he really is. And to shtei midas, b'hol ched l'shma kriyas HaTorah. Okay, in a series like this called Chassidus from Misnagdim, there are the people who come to say, okay, Tak, I'm a Misnagid, but I want to hear something flawless. And then there are the people who come, they want a gotcha moment. Okay, the Vilna guy knew what he was talking about by the Cherem. You see these radicals over here. You see how radical they are. Okay, so, I don't know if we're going to get to both pieces tonight, but the first piece that we're going to do tonight has more to do with the time of the year, as requested because Yom Yerushalayim is coming up on Sunday to do something about Yerushalayim. So for that I have for you a passage from a sefer that we had a tremendous tayalos from in the past, and that's Sidur Shal Shabbos from Chaim Chernovitzer. And if time allows, we'll do a Me'er Shalayach from this week's parsha. Okay, a little akdama before we do the Sidur Shal Shabbos. First of all, my old Yesod that Chassidus is not a reformation of Judaism, it's a reaffirmation of Judaism. Basically, all he does is take a Ramban, which Ramban is somebody who's Makubal, I'll call it Kreisen, Svardik, Ashkenazik, Litvish, Yekish, Chassidish, Lubavitcher Chassidim, Satmar Chassidim. The Ramban transcends all party lines, so to speak. So all he's going to do basically is take a Ramban and run with it. Aleph. Second of all, to head off a kasha that everyone's going to have on this Ramban, not Chaim Chernovitz, at the past, let me say the following. The Torah is full of anthropomorphisms. I believe that's how the word is pronounced. In other words, we talk about Charain Af of God. He has no nostrils to blow steam out of. He has no Yada Chazaka. Yeah? We talk about the Beis HaMikdash and about Eretz Yisrael and about Yerushalayim as if they'd be living, breathing creatures that we can have a human, a Benanul Chaverei kind of relationship with. Not only that, but the terms of the relationship very often change. Okay? If in real Benanul Chaverei a person has a ben and aim relationship with the same entity that they have an ish v'isha relationship with, that's arayas, that's karas, that's bad news. Right? Mashenkein, the Torah is full of mishalim, of these kind of anthropomorphisms between Klal Yisrael and the Eibishter and a lot of others, where the roles keep on changing. It's so to speak, kaviyachol, a ben Aaron l'chaver relationship, but the precise type of relationship, that's very fluid, that's very flexible. I'll give you a classic example. We learned here in the Arachaim Shir last Shabbos before Chakras, two different shtiklach of the Arachaim that say the same word. That the idea of, it's very famous, maybe I'm sure everyone in the room has heard this word before, maybe you know that, I don't know if he's mamish the author of one of the expositors of this word is the Arachaim HaKadosh, to wit, that the 7 weeks of Sfiras Eimer are a kind of Sfira Zayin Nekiyim, the same way neither to be kosher l'bayla has to count off Zayin Nekiyim. Yeah, and there was tremendous tumah by Klal Yisrael They had been sunk into Memta Shari Tuma in Mitzrayim. So in order to be ready for the marriage that was going to be Matan Torah, Mamela they had to count off Zion Nakim. In this case, it's weeks, it's not days. He hasn't approached why that's so, but that's the underpinning, that's the foundation of the mitzvah of Sfiras Hayman. The thing is that he says this word in at least two different places, and in Shmais, in the role of Chassan, he casts Klal Yisrael, and in the role of Kala, he casts the Torah Kedusha, right? And he says, it's a chiddush that over here the Chassan is the one who has to count Zion Nakim. Usually it's a mitzvah on the Isha to count the Zion Nakim. She's the one who becomes Tameh. She's got the problem, right? Not the Zachar. In this case, the Chassan was the one who had to count the Zion Nakim. In Bahar, last week was Emor, right? This week's Bahar. In Emor, the Aruch HaMakadosh says, by the mitzvah of Sfiras Hayman, there he says that the reason for the mitzvah was that Kaviyachal, the Eibishter himself, is the Chassan, Klal Yisrael is the Kala, and the Kala has to get ready for the Chuppah with Sfiras Hayman. So I'm just giving you an example how what happened over here. Who's the Chassan, who's the Kala, the terms of relationship to it. And we know besides where the Kala, the Eibishter is the Chassan, that's Shir Hashirim is full of that mashal. We also know Im Kavanim, the Eibishter is our king, we're subjects, the Eibishter is our father, we're children. It's all of these things. Right? Relationship between Klal Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael, to be more specific, Yerushalayim is also the same thing. The terms of the relationship can change. There's mischalef, lefi anaisim, a multifaceted, complex relationship, but again, said in anthropomorphic terms, as if it would be between two people, between not a piece of inert soil, but a living entity. Yerushalayim is a living entity. The Beis Hamikdash is a living entity. Eretz Yisrael is a living entity. Okay. Exactly. All right. So, the thing that he's about to say here, the Ramban, I'll give you a little sneak preview. We know, there are Chazals like this. Oz Tirtza Eretz is Shab Seiseh. That when Klal Yisrael is not living in Eretz Yisrael, it dries up, it becomes arid, it's a desert wasteland, right? Mark Twain wrote a dispatch for some newspaper in the 1890s, I don't know, the turn of the last century, where he said that it's a famous thing. You can Google Mark Twain, Palestine, Mark Twain, the Holy Land, something like that, where he talks about how I was expecting to find a Garden of Eden, a verdant land, and it's an absolute wasteland over here, and it must be because, what? No, forget. He said because God has a special relationship with the Jews, and when the Jews aren't here, then the land can't function. Right? Famous also, I always quote the Koshikl of a Sefer, wrote a Sefer called Eretz HaTzvi. Eretz Yisrael is called Eretz Tzvi. Why? So, Chazal say, Rashi quotes it, because Ma Tzvi Zeh Ein Eira Machzik B'Sara, the same way a Tzvi, its hide cannot contain its meat. If you talk to the taxidermist, right, he'll say, wow, this is weird. When this deer was alive, it stood 2 feet taller than now. Like the tremendous shrinkage, right? But when the meat is in there, when the content is in there, then the skin expands, so to speak. Same kind of an idea. Yisrael expands and it's more fertile when the proper content, when the proper meat is in the casing, to wit, the Yidden. Okay, that's one mahalach. We're going to see in this Ramban a different mahalach. And I can't doubt the Ramban for his historicity. He's writing a first-person account. And it seems that there were times when Klal Yisrael was in Galus, that Yerushalayim was a big, important international city, and very fertile and very rich. And we're used to hearing always stories at Alta Yeshiva of the incredible grinding poverty that made the grinding poverty of Poland and Litva look like, Fifth Avenue, like Kazkab or something like that, right? Okay, enough Akdamas. Let's read what he has to say over here. Ois Yud Zayin on Amid Shin Pehei. Umayach she'itzchel l'daber b'shevach Yerushalayim shalamata, ha'ilach u'masayim gam kein b'shevcha. I want to talk here Shabchi Yerushalayim. I want to talk the Shvachim of the holy city. V'al derech hamashal shomer Ramban. Okay, this Ramban is in Kisvei Ramban. The Eish Shebol L'Shar Yerushalayim. He came to the gates of Yerushalayim. When did he live, the Ramban? 12th century, 13th century, something like that, right? 12th century, the 1100s. He's coming to Yerushalayim. V'ra shegam ata b'churbana yesh ba'ashpa rabba v'ashirus mufleges. It's a very wealthy city. Lumas Ayel Mayashba. The Christians and the Muslims who were dwelling in Yerushalayim, they shouldn't be there. The Jews should be there. The Lamaisa, the non-Jews who were living in Yerushalayim at the time, they were living large. V'sechareh sarim kin oneha nichbad eretz, and the merchants who lived in Yerushalayim were real respectable people and captains of industry. V'yigdol tzara l'ma'id. The Ramban had tremendous tzara, tremendous pain from this. V'nafshay bacha labai. Arayis shneisaz b'chaz v'ashbasa l'b'chinas hachitzainim. V'zar yisar b'tzimchasa. Okay, he's mixing metaphors over here of the personal hurt and of Kabbalistic lingo over here. Hashpa techitzainim. Okay, in a here and now world sense, in a temporal world sense, the hashpahs, the brachas, the munificent blessings that are coming down to the world through Yerushalayim belong first and foremost by the Jewish people. And now, okay, kind of like a faithless wife, as it were, Yerushalayim is giving her goodies to strangers. That's what Ramban felt. If it's not bad enough that it's Judenrein, that it's full of Goyim and hardly any Jews are living here anymore. Okay, if the Goyim would be suffering, if they'd be nomads, if they'd be hard scrabble poor, I could take it. But they're living high on the hog and we're not even here. So tutvei al Yerushalayim. It's our relationship with Yerushalayim. Something's out of whack over here. But he explained it to himself with a mashal. Nafal al panav. V'tzak v'kol ma'ar v'amar. He fell on his face, the Ramban, and he screamed out with a bitter voice, Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim, hen emshel mashalach. Okay, again, he's talking to Yerushalayim as if it's a living person, as if it's a living entity. Li'isha hamenika es b'na, yechida hachavav alel l'maid, me'achelo shebedadeh. Talking about a lactating mother over here, a nursing mother. She's got an only son, a very beloved baby, and she nurses the baby, right? Ulafamim chala ben achavav Allah zriloch alinaik mitiv achal shebedadeh imay. Baby gets sick, and the sucking and swallowing instinct is affected by the illness. The baby can't nurse. One reason or another, the baby can't nurse. Okay, so we're eingeweint. We've heard of such things, before the onset of artificial baby formula and baby bottles. Such a thing called a wet nurse. Sometimes a mother can't provide milk for the baby, so you hire a lactating woman to nurse the child. What about faket? What about if the mother is holding by nursing and the baby can't nurse? So listen to what he says. L'famim, I said already. V'haisa ima yireya pen yivash chalava chalila b'yam elu shal chal yisbana. The mother was afraid. Her maternal instincts are she wants to nurse the baby, but the teva of nursing is that when the baby starts to wean, when the baby starts to eat other foods, solid foods, and stops nursing, so however the endocrine system, however the hormonal system in the woman works, whatever is needed in the biological processes to produce milk, those processes start to reverse and stop. Right? If there's no baby nursing, so the milk supply begins to dry up. And she's afraid that's going to happen. The baby's not nursing right now. What's going to happen to my milk? Later, the baby's going to need my milk, and I won't be able to provide the baby. I will have stopped producing milk. And then, when the kid comes around, when the kid rallies from the sickness, the baby rallies from the sickness, I won't be able to provide. Right? Her milk supply dried up. So what did this very loyal and very concerned mother do? Ayam ma'elu v'ayisam inikosa. Nowadays, I have a breast pump to stimulate the milk production if the baby is punked, not nursing that. All right? They didn't have it in those days, so they had to go natural. So what you do, so we can hire a wet nurse, a fremde woman who's not the mother of the baby, to nurse the baby. You can hire a fremde baby to nurse from the mother that the milk supply shouldn't dry up. Now he says something very, very sharp. And there will be times. What happens if you can't find a wet baby, for want of a better term? Yeah, a strange baby, a baby that's not a flesh and blood. So who needs a human being? Like kakas kelev. Any mammal will do. She'll take a puppy, she'll take a dog, and let the dog suckle at her breast, as long as just to keep the flow of milk going. I could care less about this dog, I could care less about the other baby, I care about my son. But in order to be able to provide later for my son, I've got to keep the flow going. God forbid, if the baby died as a result of the illness, or if it's clear that he's terminal, that he's not going to rally from this illness, she won't waste her milk on a child that's not her own, or certainly not on a dog. She doesn't care. Let the milk supply dry up. The milk supply has outlived its usefulness because my baby died. The koch atu Yerushalayim HaKodesh. So too Yerushalayim HaKodesh. Remember the Ramban is talking to Yerushalayim as if it would be a living entity. And he says to it, when Klal Yisrael was healthy, they were able to be yoinik from your ashbayis, they were able to get the milk, the conduits of kedusha of ashba that you wanted to give them, chiyus hanefashais, healthy spiritually. Hayisa meinik la mituv ashbayisecha. Then he gave them all the milk that you were producing, all milk that you're capable of producing. Now that they've got a nursing problem, this baby or is called Klal Yisrael, there's something sick about them. They can't take what Yerushalayim has to give. What Yerushalayim's selling, they ain't buying right now. They're not capable of buying. They're too sick. Now you've got to give your hashbais to the nations of the world, to the aspect that's called Kal Babisha, the bad dogs, the wild dogs from Avar Bazar Kodesh Truma, move with the Vren Lamaila, okay, whatever. There's a Zayar. Sha'ata Oved Sudas Lakalba. You're making the Suda, this meal. You're providing this meal to the dogs. Einsham. Kadeshatiya Ashba Shleima Beishi Yachzu Banachal B'Yusim. But you're not interested in feeding the dogs. You're not even interested in feeding the human beings who are not your own children. But you continue to offer the ashbayis. Okay. So what I mean to say is like this. Yes, there's a bechina that Yisrael and even Yerushalayim is desolate. That I understand, that I hear on the level, kind of on the level of what a husband gives a wife, what a wife gives a husband. That's not something. There's certain muscles, if you will, to use a different metaphor, that atrophy due to non-use. Okay? In this case, in his muscle, right, the milk supply and the breasts dry up due to non-use. There are other forms of ashbar, or other forms of affection that don't operate that way. There can be, you can turn them off and off like a spigot, so to speak. So their avada would be an act of faithlessness for Eretz Yisrael, for Yerushalayim, to give those kind of things to the Asylum. The Weisstachais, that, the Welt says that an Adam is an Olam Katan, a man is a microcosm. Yeah? And Rav Hutner, my Rashiva Zatzal used to say, nein, the Welt is an Adam Gadol. The Olam is an Adam Gadol. Not man is a microcosm, the cosmos is a macro man. Okay? So apparently, if there's such a thing in human hashpayas, yeah, that there's certain kinds of hashpah that if you don't keep them in constant use, you lose them, right? Not just in government allocations, right? So it is on the cosmic level. There's going to be an aspect of Yerushalayim, there's going to be an aspect of hashpayas that without constant use, they'll just dry up. And then when you'll need them, they won't be there. Okay, so in that relationship, not in the relationship of Klal Yisrael, Yerushalayim, you are my mother, and I am your child, yeah? B'nai Tzion, Yagil Malcolm, right? B'nai Tzion, son of Rana, B'nai Tzion, right? Sometimes Klal Yisrael is referred to as sons of Tzion, as daughters of Tzion. So on that level, in that aspect of the relationship, where Yerushalayim is the mother and we're the children, that's why the hashpayas have to continue even when we're in Galus. כדי שתהיה השפעה שלמה בי שיחסו בנחל בריוסה. ויבוא בנחל ובריסך ויוכל קבל השפעה מאיתך. תשפיע להם בטובכם ובריסך יברכם כמו ישראל קדם ישעיה. Okay, skip Yud Zayin for a second. Yud Ches, I mean. Go to Yud Tes. ולזה, אמר דוד המלך עליו השלום, נסעת שמחה בליבי מעץ דגן ותירשם רבו. You put gladness in my heart when their grain and their vineyards multiplied. Kleimer, Shani Sameach Ma'id, Kashani Raya Ata Beis HaGolus, he's talking with a Bal Ruach HaKodesh, seeing into the future. Dovid HaMelech's own lifetime in reign was not a time of Golus for Klal Yisrael, but I can see that there's going to be a time of Golus, and I see then that Haaretz Tita and Yevula, there are going to be times when Yerushalayim and Eretz Yisrael give stuff to the Goyim. That's a simcha. Shemizeh Yadan Beverer. From this we know. Shebezrasi Yisbarach Yachsel Anu Oy the Yirpa Yisrael Minega Avainis. We know we're not dead yet. If the baby dies, the mother stops nursing. If the mother's still nursing, there's hope for the baby. The baby's not terminal. Not only there's hope for the baby, there's confidence that the baby can and will nurse again. Shamizeh Yadam Bever Shebezrasi Yisbarach Yachsel Lanu v'Yirpa Yisrael Minega Avainis. When a Kabel HaNakasav Hashpa'asai L'Taiva V'Lavracha will receive the Ha'anaka and the Hashpa that the Eibishter gives for goodness and for blessing. Shem Leikain, if he wasn't going to heal us and cleanse us from our Avainis, Hayakolav Nitzach Hashem Hashpa Bracha. Then the breast would stop producing milk. There's no point in it anymore. The baby that I'm here to mother, that I'm here to nurse, is never going to suckle again. What's the point? When we see that their produce multiplies, it's all for us. So that we should be able to get the hashba that's nimshal to the chol of ha'im at the time when we will be healthy again. Nothing good comes to the world except for Yisrael. Is all for the Yidden Kleimer Shu Derech Ushvil Yisrael Lekabel Kaltu B'Shuv El Neveil. Very, very novel pshat. Okay? Other Chassidus Shosam say, talking about Rav Chanina ben Daisa, there's his Pilus of Chazal, they say, Kol Oilam Kulay Nizayim B'Shvil Chanina B'ni, V'Chanina B'ni, Dayaloi B'Kav Chruva Me'er Shabbos Le'er Shabbos. The whole world gets sustained. Usually the prosaic translation of the word B'Shvil means on account of, for the sake of. My son Chanina ben Daisa, and he himself, he needs so little, he needs a kav, a little peck, I don't know, a little dry volume measure of charuvim, of carobs, all week, from one Friday to the next Friday. But, what? Right.
And then also you should also look at it like the other way too, that you have to do everything to not feel much.
Amen. Anili mili kshinalatimani. No. That's a nice word in pick up, but this is not the word the Chassidus is what I'm saying on Bishul. Another type that they say, Bishvil Chanina B'ni is, a guy is designing a software designer, right? He's designing a microchip, right? He's got to know, how to route. I mean, I'm dating myself. I'm going to say circuits. I don't know if they even call circuits, transistor circuitry. Well, let's go more simple, okay? A plumber, yeah? He's got to know what the drain pipe is and what the intake pipe is and what the gutter pipe is and as I weiter. You see these guys sometimes working on the corner over here, Coney Island and L, the people from the phone company, they're sitting there with millions of wires coming out of the backside. How do they know not to cross the wire? A shvil means a path also, right? Shvila haleket. Shvil means a path. So another taich, I don't remember which Geti it says it, but I state in a lot of Chassidus as well. Kol ha'olam kul, the hispilus is not just how little Reb Chanina ben Daisa can get away with. The hispilus is the whole ashpah, the whole bandwidth, so to speak, the pipeline through which the whole rest of the world is getting sustained, is the one that in the first place was created for Chanina B'ni. Yeah? Everyone has their different pipelines. How they're getting their brachas and their ashpahs, their umbilical cord, if you will, to the Rabbi Shalom. That's the shvil, that's the path that we're talking about. Kol calling nizan bishvil in the shvil of Chanina B'ni. Right? So he's saying something similar to that over here as well. He says a shvil is a path. Yeah? How does a person come back to God? How does a person do tshuva? If you feel it's hopeless, if you feel you're dead, if you feel you're beyond, we know there's such imagery. Rishayim, af b'chayim kriyim mesim. I'm a Russia. The Welt doesn't know I'm a Russia because nobody knows what I do in the privacy of my own four walls. Right? But I know the truth. I'm a zombie. I'm a dead man walking. Forget tshuva, that's for the other guys. That's for the people who aren't as far gone as me. And me, I'm a hopeless case. I'm like that heavenly voice that came out by Elisha ben Avuya. Acher shuva ban shavim chutz me'acher. Right? I can't come back. Tshuva is not for me. I have no path. I have no way to access. Yeah? There was a road that led me away from Rabbi Shalom, but Pashtus, I should be able to turn around and walk right back on the road. But there's been an avalanche. The road's been destroyed. Okay? A bridge, I crossed the bridge, and now the bridges were burned. How can I go back? You want to know the shvil? You want to know the path back to Hashem? You want to know how you'll be healed? You don't know how you'll return? Kol ha'olam kula nizan. Because the Welt is still getting hashpayis. The Welt would be charav. The whole world would be starving and dying of thirst. If not for the fact that however you want to call it, the Rabbi Shalom Yerushalayim is giving her hashpayis like the mother who's got to keep nursing while the baby is sick. I'm not a dead baby. I'm a sick baby. I'm a sick puppy that I recognize. But I'm not hopeless. Okay? The shvil for me to get back is this hisbaininus, is this idea. I look at Yerushalayim, I see a healthy, vibrant, rich Yerushalayim, full of Muslims and Armenians and Christians. No Jews over there. What's going on here? What's going on here is the mother hasn't given up hope on the baby. The baby's still alive. Ill, very ill, but alive and kicking. And if you're alive and kicking and the mother's still bothering to nurse, the mother fully expects you to go, the mother expects you to get well. Elisha ben Avuya was the chutz me'acher. I'm not chutz me'acher. I can still return. I can still come back. That's how Reb Chaim Chernovitz is touching this chazal. The shvil means the path back to Rabbi Shalom, and the path back to Rabbi Shalom is informed by this idea of that a mother continues to nurse only if the baby is still alive and she's confident in the baby's recovery. Otherwise, she wouldn't bother. I just want to, I don't know, we'll do it by a show of hands. You tell me if you want to learn the Meshalech also, but before, I just want to be Messiah with this idea that when we talk about Yerushalayim, I think the Alter Rebbe says it, other Chassidus say it, that when Yankov Avinu, we all know that Beisel, where Yankov Avinu slept and he has a dream of the ladder, okay, that's Yerushalayim, okay? Manayra Makom Zeh Ein Zeki and Beis Elikim V'Zeh Shar Shamayim. It's a gate, right? So in Svarim HaKadoshim it says a gate allows for two-way traffic. A gate is not the same thing as a one-way street. If there's a gate, Malach Elikim Eilim V'Yardim Bay. There's two-way traffic on this gate. And he says the same way Yerushalayim is a place for tefillah, for man communicating with God. It's also a place for God communicating with man. It says the Ashbayas and the Nevi'im used to come down when Moshe Rabbeinu would go in. It was Miben Shnei HaKruvim, right? Yivarecha Hashem Mitzion. You want to talk about bandwidth? You want to talk about the shvil, the main conduit of bracha in the world? The main conduit of bracha in the world comes down through Yerushalayim. We express our neediness, our need for bracha, our need for hashpah. That goes through Yerushalayim. Wherever a yid is, if you look at the kapitel Malachim Aleph, kapitel Ches, where Shlomo HaMelech dedicates the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim, he talks about every possible need, every possible tefillah that a person, even a non-Jew, could express. And he always talks about when they'll turn derech Beisam and derech Artsam and derech Iram. It's all through Eretz Yisrael, through Yerushalayim, through the Beis HaMikdash. That's the conduit for our neediness being expressed to the Rebbeinu Shalom, and that's the conduit of hashpayis that come down to the world. It also goes through Yerushalayim. Okay.